All right. Hey everybody, Simple Coach here. Jackie right there. She's a little bit active today, so if you hear the barking, I apologize. Hey, super excited for today. This is what I've been thinking about for quite some time. There she goes, right? Leaf is falling. Today is the day that I announce the D3 best team. Handpicked players that are based on my experience. I get to show you sort of what my thinking is around how I'm going to use that list. I'll tell you the games we're going to play and a bunch of other stuff. So let's get right to it. So let me reduce myself a little bit. There we go. So yeah, 2021 Division 3 Best of the Best, or D3 Best SC. That's me. So let's get moving. Okay, so first thing I want to touch upon before I get into it is just an anatomy of a goal. Simple player number 3 scored a banger, and it's the sort of thing that gets me excited. So I'll go through that really quick. I'm going to go through the rules of how I picked my D3 best team. I'm going to go through the list of players. I'm not going to go into too much detail talking awards and all that stuff because I hope to do it when I make my selections during each game, which I'll explain. I'll do a preview of my thinking for the 3 is greater than 1 Premier League. That's what I'm calling it. And I'll go through the fixtures that I have planned, and I'll explain that a little bit. And then I'm just going to go upon what's next. So before I go into all of this stuff, let me do anatomy of a goal. So simple player number 3 had a game this past weekend, and the video caught up to it. Now, let me just explain. There's a lot about soccer that just sort of doesn't do anything for me. It's sort of, I guess, the basics of the game. That's not the part that grabs me, but the part that really captures my imagination is the imagination or some real great technical expertise, or sort of getting caught up in the game and almost having that moment where you're just at one and you're doing what you do because you are just so in tune to the game. That's the stuff that I look for. And in all my years of watching Simple Player number 3, I've love watching him. But I've very few moments where I'm like, man, he was so in tune to this. So I'm going to play this. I'm just going to leave it for you to take a look at. Let me see if I can pop that up. And you're going to look in this area in particular, this player right there, simple player number 3. Boom. Let me play that again. I'll try to stop it. Okay, so ball is played short. I'm going to pause it right here. Simple player, it's hard to see, he's lining up for a ball behind him. Does a sign, you can see it, gets up behind the ball and does an overhead kick volley. It's not a bicycle kick. We had many discussions, him and I, around, is it a bicycle kick? Is it an overhead kick? And sort of we've come to the conclusion that it's an overhead kick because it's not a real bike, the boom boom. That it's not that. It's more of a, hey, I'm gonna hit it, and then my trailing leg's gonna follow. But can't see it here. But when you zoom in on it, because this doesn't zoom very well, the like he gets his leg up there fully extended. The back leg sort of lifts up. There's a point where he's airborne. You see his arm sort of tucked behind him, trying to feel the ground so he doesn't land so hard. And this was not a setup, and it was completely being in tune to the moment. And I'm just super elated by it, just because it's, man, that's what you try to capture as a soccer player, as at least I always did. Let's look at one more time. Ball's played short. Up. Boom. And then his celebration was kind of comical. Sliding on his knees, all that stuff. It was just fantastic. Anyhow, thank you for the indulgence. That has nothing to do with 3-3 soccer, you could say. Let me see if I could fix this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so where am I? Yep. Oh, yep. Okay, so let's get back to the top. Let's get back to the topic at hand. How did I select my players? And I made a really concerted effort to know what I was doing. And they probably picked more players. I think it's 32 players that I picked, but you'll get the gist of it when I get into it. Here are the rules that I set out to do this, because I didn't want it to be made up. I didn't want it to be, picked by someone else. And I tried very hard not to be influenced by recognition awards. There's a lot of great players here that, got recognition, didn't get recognition, got recognized at the league level or the regional level, not necessarily all American level. I think there's a mix. So the rules are, first of all, I had to have seen the players at some point this season. I couldn't do it off of, which I originally thought, I'm just going to go to the All-American list that United Soccer Coaches came out and grab a bunch of players there and assemble them in a way that I wanted to. And no, that to me would have been sort of cheating. What I wanted to do was I wanted to sort of see a player, and in a lot of cases there are players that I was like, man, that kid is good, or there's something that sparked it in me to pick him. Whether it's his style of play, whether what he does on the sideline. Some of them are pretty obvious as to why, because they're just such presences on their team. Yeah, but I had to have seen them. If I did not, if I didn't see, if I didn't watch, if I didn't watch Connecticut College, then that would have discounted all Connecticut College players. Fortunately, I did get to see them, and so Connecticut College is represented. But okay, when I pulled it all together, I had to make it like a functional team roster. So I wanted 3 goalkeepers. I had to have enough defenders. I had to have enough midfielders. I had enough forwards. And so it had to make sense in that regard. I hate, and all state selections. It's guys who score goals and guys who score more goals. Those who make the teams. I'm not a fan of that. I like, again, if a team plays with, let's just say it's 11 players, pick 11 players. Right? Like 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, or however the formation is you want to, but it's got to be legit, right? If I have a team of 11 forwards, that's not, I don't like that. So and when I explain the 3 is greater than 1 Premier League, players that are on my roster can't line up against their own college. So I can't have, making it up, but a Colby College player selected, and if I'm playing Colby College, I can't use that Colby College player in that against that team. Just again, just because it wouldn't necessarily make sense in my own warped mind. Um, the other thing I decided is like I am looking for ball players. I am not looking for necessarily positions. So just because here's one, it's a good one, I think. Calvin Arrow is a center defensive mid. Doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't serve a function for me in my mind as a center back. Yeah, that's kind of again. So a player to me, I'm going to try to I'm positioning them in a way in a place where I'm trying to take advantage of either something I'm trying to do from a tactical perspective, but also to try to use their abilities to serve this. Again, you'll see the 3v1 Premier League, which and then I wanted to challenge myself. I couldn't just rely, if I picked 32 or 33 players, I couldn't just rely on 11. Like, I couldn't say, okay, I got 33 players. Now I'm going to pick the best 11, and every game I'm going to go up against the best 11. No. I wanted to basically be able um, um, to basically try to use all of the players almost equally. I'm sure I'll struggle with that, and um, it won't necessarily work out that way. But you know what? We'll give it a I'll give it a whirl, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the three is greater than one Premier League. D3 best takes on the rest. So I picked a handful of teams, and I came up with a fixtures list. So I'm going to do a preseason game, not so much because it's a preseason game, really, but to help me work out sort of the things in my head, and you'll see why it can be a little bit complicated. And so I'm going to go up against the preseason game is going to go up against Washington University. This will all make sense as I tie it all back, promise. And week one, I'm going after North Park University. Week two, we're going to play Stevens Institute of Technology. I was really impressed with the way they played against Tufts, so I'm gonna take a look at them more deeply. Week three, the team that plays from the front, Franklin and Marshall College. Week four, University of Chicago. Week five, we got to tackle Tufts. Week six, got to go after Amherst. Week seven, we're going out to Minnesota. Minnesota. St. Olaf College. Week nine, best passing team in the country, Messiah College. Week 10, a national champ in the next year or two, Kenyon College. And then the final game, El Campeonato del Mundo, Connecticut College. So that's who I'm going to play. And like I said, that when I come back and I do my show you a sample preview of what I'm planning, then you can, you'll understand why I'm doing this. Okay, so let's go for the players. So to me, these are probably the three best goalkeepers that I have seen for a bunch of different reasons. And so Dylan Brown from Denison University, Jared Keeper the Mullet Pavlovich from Messiah College, and this is one of those names, Xander Lefebvre. That's like Brett Favre, right? Like what? Okay. I think next year I'll have a rule where if I can't pronounce your name easily, then you can't make the team. But anyhow, so those are my three keepers. Defenders, one of my all-time favorites, Luke Mother, Kenyon College, Drew Van Ander, Calvin College, Cayman Moore, Ohio Northern University, who I think is a stand-up player. Oliver Akintande from Calvin College. Uh, Probably my favorite freshman defender in the country, Jack Kelisoglu from Connecticut College. Uh, Another favorite of mine, Ian Daly, Tufts University. A really impressive uh, player, Thurn, another name, Guy, I'll just say Guy, St. Olaf College, and Jack Rawlings, Washington and Lee College. My defenders. Now let's go to midfielders. My midfielders, best of the best. Steve Jonas, Connecticut College. Ignacio Subedo, Amherst College. Hector Gomez, another, I mean, what an outstanding player. Ohio Wesleyan University. Somebody I think is just, him and his partner at North Park University are just spectacular. Petter Olson, Calvin Arrow, for obvious reasons, Tufts University. Uh, Augie Durdash, who knows? Connecticut College. The other North Park partner in crime with Peter Olson is Gustav Eriksson. The two of them are, I mean, along with, I forget their names, at Washington College, are probably the best midfield pair, like working together. Luke Brandigan, I mean, oh my gosh, Messiah College. I think he's only a freshman. Gerardo Martinez from Kenyon College, another fantastic midfielder. A guy who probably is a little bit overlooked because he's, on the left coast. Colin Chubferdle. Anyhow, University of the Redlands, and another one of my favorites, Peter Navoa from MIT. So those are my midfielders. My forwards, best of the best forwards of all. That again, there's something about their play that I find terribly impressive. So, Amir Lukovic, left-footed beast, Montclair State University. Mike Kutsinzira from Washington and Lee College, who was just fantastic in the tournament. Will Isaac from Otterbein College. Josiah Crawford, Montclair State University. Again, another pairing of players, Josiah Crawford and Amir Lukovic, that together are just awesome to watch. Somebody I'm surprised that didn't get as much recognition as I thought he would, Marvin Sibanda from St. Lawrence University. Somebody who I think is a neat, crafty little winger, Darius Siapush from Catholic University. Another fantastic forward, Jager Booker from Ohio Wesleyan University. I mean, between him and Hector Gomez, they're again another pairing that is just so fun to watch. Sergio Rivas from Washington College, spectacular. A kid that I really like on the right hand side, or who seems to gravitate right, Hakeem Morgan, St. Olaf College. And then lastly, another guy who seems to be, I don't want to, you don't hear him in some of the conversations that much, because I think again because of location, but Michael Neese at Trinity University in Tejas. So those are that's my team. That's my best D3, best SC. Or those are the guys. This is a stellar award for them. Obviously, they all get Rice Krispie treats. Okay. So let's go to. Let me shift over to another. Let's go to here. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Let me go forward. Okay. So, like I said, I have this thing in my mind that I'm trying to flesh out, and you guys are my guinea pigs. My 13 million subscribers are, I'm using you as just sort of playing. Like, I got nothing else to do during this sort of January, February time frame. And so I sort of came up with this thing. How cool would that be if I can pull it off? It's kind of tricky in that I need to be really good at PowerPoint, and that's kind of tricky. So, anyhow, so let's just say my selected D3 best team is going up against Clemson University. Why Clemson? I don't know. And I've done my research and I've sort of taken a look and tried to watch some videos and understood and tried to break them down, and have discovered that, from an attacking perspective, this is how they line up. They have two in the back, your two center backs. You have your outside backs are high and wide, and then you have your three centers, and then you have your up front three. So I'm not saying this is the way Clemson plays. I really made it up. I think a lot. I think a lot of teams play in this way. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say there's not a lot of teams that don't play this way. I think it's more of an anomaly to find teams that don't play this way than that they do, and which is a real kind of bummer for me. So a lot of this is just a mental exercise for me, and like figuring out, again, assume I have these 33 players. How good? How would I play if I wanted to play? Now, understand something, right? You go to battle with the army you have. I don't have that issue. I have, conceptually, I have these great talented players, so I could probably get them to play again in my thinking, right? Like I could get them to play in any number of different ways, and obviously, there's no season. And again, this is an intellectual exercise for me. So, but and let's just say I decide to come out of the gate, with a bunch of different players, and I'm just playing a standard 4-3-3, and I got Keeper the Mullet from Messiah College, Ian Daly on the left, Michael Meese on the right hand side, Calvin Arrow in the center. So, and Augie Deardash on the right side. So I got all these players, and they all have certain attributes that I enjoy out of them. And let's just say, okay, this is the start. This is how it's gonna line up. This is the starting lineups, and then I'm gonna take a look at, okay, so let's start defensively. What will happen defensively, and how do I want to form myself, and how do I want the team to be shaped on a defensive side against Clemson and the way Clemson plays? So I always want to at least defend when I'm deep in my side. I want to defend with 7. Some like to go with 8. I like to stick with 7. And large part of it is because my defense is my attack, right? It's the starting of my attack. So I'm a attacking oriented guy. I want this is a game of goals. And so I want my team to be able to position itself to score goals. So I try to have 7 guys defending, my midfielders. I want at least one of my wingers to be way up high at midfield on the line. And then I want the other winger to sort of drop back. And it depends on the personality, quite honestly. It depends on the player, which one I choose, or directionally which way I'm trying to play or force a play. And then I have a center forward. I have a center forward that, again, stays up high. I absolve 2 of the 3 forwards from defensive responsibilities. Yeah, crazy. I don't expect them to defend. I expect them to chase and to sort of cover a little bit and to sort of force things, but they're on the field to score goals. So I want to create an atmosphere for them where they have the best opportunity to succeed at what they're supposed to be doing, which is scoring goals. So let's just say Clemson University comes out against me and this becomes their attacking posture. When they get forward, they want to attack with 7. And so we're somewhat at an even keel. I know everybody wants to always have an extra guy, but I'm not looking at an extra guy in terms of lines. I'm looking at extra guys, or as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that concerns me is an open player. And I, again, hold my players responsible for their individual jobs. So if they're defending a player, I expect them to defend the player. So defensively, though, from a posture, knowing this is the way Clemson attacks, this is how I want to shape myself from a defensive standpoint. And if you take a look, I'm actually just trying to connect and surround players. So I'm connecting my players to surround players. And another big thing I don't talk about, and barely I should have, right? Like, this isn't just about chasing the ball for me. Chasing the ball is the worst thing I think any player could do. I'm all about position. So there are things that I don't want players to do. Like, I don't want my left my left midfield to drift into the middle so that they would be standing in the middle. Again, because to me, shape, just as valuable as it is on attack, shape is very important in transition. And if your players are not in the right spot, if my players are not in the right spot to receive the ball, and that the rest of the team doesn't know where those players are, it becomes a lot more difficult to connect. So when I defend, this is what I like to look at. And again, you'll notice in this instance, and I don't know why, but I think it's because I was assuming like the Clemson likes to come down their right. If you look at a lot of the D3 games, the teams like to attack down the right wing, and I think it's because by and large, naturally, most teams are more comfortable on the right, because they're all right-footed players and what have you. So they try to get it out on the right side. They try to get it down to the winger on the right side. They try to take it down the line on the right side, and they try to drop it back or cross it to guys who are gunning for the goal to slam it home. So in this instance, I drop back the left winger, Sapanga, for the to sort of cover, to act as a cover, right? So he's involved in however this play develops, and I get it's all going to sort of move and all that stuff. It's not just a design on the board, but this is conceptually how I want to do it, how I want to play defensively. And again, Clemson has characteristics on the attack. There's going to be one of their two center backs is probably the more creative of the two and might be the guy to play. And so one of my forwards might be tucked in to cover that particular player because they cause more damage than the hammer, right? Because again, most teams play with a hammer and a little bit more of a creative guy, so or a converted midfielder. So one of those players might be covered. Clemson, again, in this instance, they like to push up their other back. They like to push him up a little bit higher, which is why, again, I like a winger who is going to stay high and wide. On the one hand, to draw that defender from going up too high, but also probably even more importantly, is when we transition into the attack, this player, the Michael Neese on the outside right wing is high and ready, and if that defender has stepped too high, they have acres of space. And so the whole exercise becomes, how do we get the ball in this, let's just say it's one, into this space. How do we get this ball worked so that we can take advantage of that space and get the ball going fast, right? And I'm not saying launching the ball. Don't get me wrong. Like we practices, you practice what you play. You play what you practice, and I practice ball on the deck, right? So ball is always on the deck. Force it on the deck. There'll be plenty of time to kick the stuffing out of the ball, but for practices, ball is on the deck. So in this exercise, this is what I want to do. And again, we win the ball positionally. Everyone knows where everyone should be. That's not to say that they're open, but they should know where they're going to be, again, to transition into attack. So what does an attack look like? So again, this is just sort of the average. I think probably the team that I see do it this way most effectively and most formally is Jay Martin's Ohio Wesleyan, which is why I like. I'm gonna have to reach out for see if I can't talk to him for you guys. So there's four in the back, sometimes five. Their center defensive mid is dropped almost as a fifth back, but probably stays a little bit higher. And then you have your outside wingers and your two other midfielders. They're a line of defenders, right? And so here's how I would position myself on the attack in this instance, right? And now you'll notice I don't when we are in the attack, I want my wingers to drop out of space. So most teams will play up in these areas, will get them up in these areas. When in this scheme, what I want is the ball to be controlled in this area, the hardest place on the field, right? Because what ends up happening and what I watch far too often, and this could be a coach thing. I don't have a, I'm not sure on if I have a theory on it or an understanding of it yet, but what ends up happening, the only time a team, most teams break down another team is on a counter, right? Like they get through guns going, everyone's running forward, defenders are chasing back. They don't have a formation. They can't. They're not organized. Little haphazard. Team takes advantage of it. Slots the ball, whatever. Ball bounces, goal. There's that type of goal, and then there's the chaos ball, but that's goal. But that's not. But it's very rare. Do you see teams work the ball in a manner to score a goal once the defenders are all set? So when the entire team is back, like I said, when you watch Ohio Wesleyan and they fall back, they are very, very difficult to defend against when they're in their formation. So this is designed to break that. And so in this case against Clemson, what do I want to do? I don't want us to knock the ball around in the back, right? In the back here. I want us to push them back into their half, but I want my casual possession to be here. So in these four places. And so that means that my outside backs have stepped into the middle. My two center backs, one acts as like a loose cover on the Clemson forward, and then the other acts as cover to here, right? And yeah, that makes it vulnerable for kick and run, all that kind of stuff, but I have probably the best team in Division III soccer, so I'm not worried. This is the possession play right here. When the ball gets knocked around here, this to me just represents possession. forcing this center of the field for Clemson to start stepping out, right? To step out to try to do. When that happens, we want. Oop, let me go back. This second diamond becomes where the play can happen, right? But it has to happen here first before it can go here. And once it gets to this part, that's the attack. So that's when I want outside backs to go forward, or outside the wingers to get forward in support of this, because I either want a ball to feet as they're running, or we want the ball in between the spaces of the defenders for somebody who is running into that space, not standing in that space. That's the other thing I notice when you watch as many games as I have. The first thing that becomes really clear, again, when they're in this defensive, when a team gets into this defensive zone, they're able to lock down, not necessarily because they're good defenders, but because there are so many players in a straight line. I mean, it's like so obvious to see in my book. It's so obvious. You can't help but not, because there'll be like 10 players in a line. Like it's almost ridiculous. So you have your 5 defenders, you're going to have your 3 forwards, so that's 8. You're going to have like the center back, he's dropped in because they want a number, and then, there's going to be one of the attacking mids is going to be stepping forward into that spot. So you, before you know it, there's no way to get through that ball. So what ends up happening, teams launch balls from 50 yards out, or what they try to do, what they think spreads out the game, is they get the ball all the way into the back. They circulate it, hoping the team's going to step out. But the problem is that not only do they step out, but your team has to step back to sort of reshape and then try again. But they're still behind, right? And so, anyhow, so this to me is the long lost play in Division III soccer that I've seen. Like, there's very little interplay in this space. It's a lot on the exteriors, on the outside wingers. And so against Clemson in this case, I want to force this issue, right? Again, when I have a talented group of players now. So this is the issue I want to force. I want Calvin to be that guy who receives the ball, turns, and looks to either attack, or if he's feeling the pressure, he gets the opportunity to drop it back to these guys. Again, forcing out the players, not necessarily stretching them this way, but stretching them up north-south, not east-west, right? North-south being goal to goal. So stretch them this way, and then you start creating the space that these two wingers can take advantage of, and then our forwards can take advantage of, and these outside midfielders can come forward towards. Make sense? Okay. So that's my fixture example of what I'm going to do, and I'll break down what I think each school does, and I'll try to play it that way. And I could be totally off. Like, I could totally expect a coach to reach out to me and be like, "You have no idea what you're talking about," which is fine. But it's entertainment. Entertaining for me to sort of play these chess games on a PowerPoint slide. Okay, so let's go back to the other one. We're almost done. All right, so that's that. Okay, so did this last time. I kind of like it to sort of give you a little bit of an idea as to some of the things I'm working on. Obviously, talked about the 3 is greater than 1 Premier League, D3 best against the teams. You saw the fixtures. So my first pre-game is going to be against the preseason game is going to be against Washington University. I got to figure out when I'll be able to do that. With the holidays and stuff. Even CEOs of crazy large media empires like myself need time away with the family and whatnot. So I don't know. We'll see. Um, the I mentioned this before. Probably in the new year, we're going to be looking to do a virtual roundtable, with a bunch of Division III soccer gearheads, and yeah, and so we got to figure that out. That's definitely the new year. Um, this is the thing I'm really excited for. Simple Coach to Coach in January. I have lined up 2 interviews with Division III head coaches, one from one school, one from another, um, and they're they're well known, or they should be. Um, but definitely in the D3 soccer world, these are, best of the best. So I'm really excited for that. And then after those 2, I'm going to start to think about, okay, how do I who do I talk to next, and who's amenable and whatnot. So and then what else? Oh yeah, so I did this last week, and I got a lot of feedback, which I'd never gotten before. Um, I started looking at coaching opportunities, and for D3 NAIA and JUCO schools. Why I added NAIA and JUCO, I have no idea, but I just figured small school, maybe somebody's out there. So one of the the last video I did was on those job opportunities, and so hey, check, you know, hopefully it helps somebody. If it helps you land a gig, that's awesome. I wish I was in your shoes. And yeah, so I think that covers it for. Yep, that's it. So just want to thank you for taking the time. Appreciate you watching, and whatever feedback you can provide. You see my email, sc149249@aol.com. Really appreciative of your support, and yeah, guys, have a great day. Jackie is sleeping, but I know she just mumbled something like hello, now get out of my sleeping space. So all right, all.